Welcome to Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. I am your host, Lauren Larson, and I'm so excited that you're here with me in episode 26, where we are diving into the topic of people pleasing. And I'm really excited about this because I am a recovering people pleaser. I don't know that I will ever heal from people pleasing. However, I have come such a long way, like a long way. From somebody who used to be terrified to even share their preference on where they wanted to get food from, to getting tattoos that they didn't really love on their body because they didn't want to upset the tattoo artist's feelings. When I say that out loud, it actually is insane. Because I would rather get something permanently tattooed on my body than hurt somebody's feelings because I didn't like the font of a tattoo. That's bad. That's so bad. So when I say that I am a recovering people pleaser, I am. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. And so I want to talk about this in the hopes that it helps unlock something for other people, even just one. I want you to experience the freedom that I have experienced in being more comfortable stating my opinions, my wants, my needs, etc. That's available for you too. And we're going to talk about it. So I first want to help you understand exactly what people pleasing is. And it is what it sounds like, People pleasing is this need to prioritize other people's needs and wants and desires and opinions over their own. It's like this deep-seated need to get approval, get recognition, avoid conflict, make sure everybody else is happy, get acceptance, etc. And people-pleasing can be formed, in a lot of different ways. So for me, I learned people-pleasing was safe in childhood. And so we can learn people-pleasing from our parents' expectations, right? As long as we stay in line with their rules, with their expectations, with their desires, we get love and acceptance, right? And if we step out of that, we get punished, or they withdraw their love, or they emotionally abandon us, or anything like that. You can also be completely neglected by a parent if you didn't please them the way that they wanted to be pleased. So let's talk about where people pleasing can start and what can cause this need to please others. First of all, it can absolutely start in our childhood, right? Our childhood experiences can create a people-pleasing tendency. We have expectations from our parents, and we want to please them. We want to keep their love. We want to, make sure that we don't get punished or ignored. Also under that childhood experience is that emotional neglect. Some kids don't receive necessary emotional support or validation from their parents. And so these kids will learn behaviors that gain approval or attention, even if it's negative. So that's why you'll see some kids that just act out and they're getting into trouble and they're getting into trouble and they're getting into trouble. They don't care that they're getting into trouble because they're getting attention from their parent. Now, this isn't like an overgeneralization. I'm just explaining one example. Another thing is self-worth and identity. This is so tied up in people-pleasing. A lot of people pleasers have low self-esteem and self-worth and may believe that their value is dependent upon another person's opinion or approval or their happiness with you. And I've talked about in a previous episode that our value and our worth cannot be found in anyone or anything other than God. Another reason for people pleasing is it's in your personality, especially if you're somebody who is highly empathetic. You tend to be more sensitive to other people's needs and will try to prioritize those needs to avoid discomfort or disappointment or unhappiness. And also those that are just avoidant to conflict. If you're scared of conflict, you're going to kind of suppress your own needs and opinions and wants to maintain the peace. And then there's the beloved fear of rejection and abandonment. I still deal with fear of rejection for sure. I've talked about it in several episodes. But there are people that developed anxious attachments and have this fear of rejection and abandonment. And so they can engage in people-pleasing behaviors to kind of secure the relationship, to make sure that they don't get left. And then there's always going to be past traumas, experiences of rejection and criticism and abandonment that can result in this heightened need to people please. So there are many types of people pleasing. One of them is the passive people pleaser. And this is the person that avoids confrontation at all costs. And they suppress their own opinions, their own desires, and their own needs to keep the peace. And this can look like having a different opinion, but avoiding voicing it. Or not taking a stand on an issue. Or pushing back on somebody when they've done something wrong. Or this person apologizes excessively for just existing. Have you ever been around those people that just apologize for everything? And you're like, why are you apologizing right now? I try to call it out, especially in women, because I see a lot of women do this, but I try to call it out and say, you don't need to be sorry for not responding to my texts right away. You don't need to be sorry for having a life outside of me. Like, you don't need to be sorry for whatever it is that you're doing. Like, unless you're actively hurting me or you're doing something wrong, I just don't see the need to apologize. And even we apologize when we make mistakes, like spill water or forget to do something or whatever. And I'm sorry. And it's like, you're human. Do you need to apologize? Sometimes, sure. But not very much. I want you to be aware of how many times you apologize and what exactly you're apologizing about. Because with an apologies are supposed to be sincere, right? Apologies are supposed to have a changed behavior behind them. Apologies are like a big deal. But if you're apologizing for the littlest things, it's time to stop. The next one is the over-accommodating people pleaser. This is the person that will go out of their way to meet people's needs. They take on extra work, consistently volunteer themselves for everything, find it difficult to say no to things. This can look like somebody that's constantly staying late at work or taking on work from their colleagues. And this interferes with their own personal life, their own tasks, their own agenda that they need to get done. And then you have the approval-seeking people pleaser. This person needs that validation and that acceptance. Like they're dying for it. They think that their self-worth is tied up in the perception of others. So they may be fishing for compliments, asking for reassurance, changing their opinions or behaviors to align with whatever it is that person wants or needs, or to just act like other people. A lot of these remind me of when I was in high school, middle school, high school, and it makes me cringe because I remember doing this stuff and it was terrible. It was terrible. Like I saw the popular girl in school and I was like, oh, I'm going to be like her. Oh. And I started acting like her and it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. This is the person that's changing their style, changing their opinions, changing their interests, holding back on what they like because somebody else might think it's dumb, things like that. And then you have your conflict avoidant people pleaser. This is the person that fears confrontation and will avoid it at all costs. They may be quiet when they need to say something. They may just say, "Oh, it's okay," if their feelings are hurt when it's really not. This person will agree to things that they don't want to do. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been all of these. And then you have your empathic people pleaser. They are very heightened and sensitive to other people and often will put others' needs emotionally above their own. So this person may take on the emotional burdens of other people and offer support at their own expense, maybe at the expense of spending time with their kids or their spouse or whatever, and then struggle to set those emotional boundaries. And then you have your guilt-driven people pleaser. This person pleases out of this sense of guilt and feeling responsible for other people's happiness. They could apologize a lot, overcompensate in relationships, and just feel guilty for having needs of their own and maybe prioritizing them over others. And this is the person that constantly will take on more and more and more without saying no because they feel guilty. And then we have the perfectionist people pleaser. This person is striving for perfection, no mistakes, flawlessness. They have a fear of criticism and a fear of not being approved of, a fear of disapproval. And so they may go to extreme lengths to act and seem and talk perfectly, always looking for approval and validation from others. My gosh, do I resonate with this one big time. I have always been a person that has kept my opinions to myself a lot and never wanted to seem like I could mess up. And lately, I have been letting myself show up messy, show up imperfectly, because I feel like God gave me a word several months ago that He is going to heal my childhood wound of perfectionism through showing up messy like this and not tying my worth to the results and to the opinions of others. And guess what? Since I've done that, people have gotten mad. They've gotten upset with me. They've pushed me away. They don't talk to me as much anymore. They don't whatever anymore. And so I am realizing, as painful as it is, that those aren't my people. Like if somebody can't love me and accept me for my flaws and mistakes, and when I show up perfectly, then that's not my person. because we are all flawed. We all make mistakes. But if somebody doesn't believe that I, at the core of who I am a good human, and they can see that my mistakes are just that, a mistake, then that's not my person. And that's okay. When you shed the weight of people pleasing, you are going to realize who is for you, like the real you. But as long as you keep hiding behind the people pleasing, they're never going to know the real you. You're not giving them the opportunity to love and accept you for who you are. You're already deciding for them that they're not going to love you and accept you for your true self. And so people pleasing, in fact, is a manipulative, controlling thing because you are trying to control how people view you. You're trying to manipulate their perception and their opinions of you based off of what you think they want to see. Had to say it. People pleasing is costly. It is costly. It can cost you your mental and emotional health. Fear and anxiety and stress can take over your life. You can experience burnout. You can experience depression because you're neglecting yourself and your needs. You're abandoning yourself for other people. You can lose who you are entirely because of what you think other people want you to be. Your sense of self-worth can plummet because you are so dependent upon the validation and the opinions and the approvals of others that if you're not getting it constantly, you don't feel good about yourself. You don't think you're that great. Maybe you're experiencing resentment and frustration because you are constantly, because your needs and your opinions and your wants are being overlooked. And I want to stop here for a second because I want to call out this victim mindset that can be wrapped up in this right here. It is not somebody else's fault that you are not expressing your needs and your opinions. Like that's your job. That's on you to do. And so if you aren't doing that, you can't be mad at other people for not knowing what your needs and your opinions and your wants are. You have to tell people. People are not mind readers. And so be careful with this victim mindset around this. I get a little fired up about this victim mentality thing because it drives me insane. But nobody else is responsible for you and your feelings and your thoughts and your opinions and your needs and expressing them than you are. And for you to put that responsibility on other people to pull this stuff out of you is unfair. Speak up. Share it with people. Let them know where you stand. You have nothing to lose because when you think about it, if you're going to lose this relationship, if you're going to lose this friendship, if you're going to lose this whatever, it's not that big of a loss. Because like I said earlier, you want people that are for you fully, for your yes and your no. I gotta move on because I could preach on that all day long. You know, in this people pleasing, you can find yourself in an imbalanced relationship where you are the one constantly giving. And you're feeling unappreciated and you're feeling undervalued. So let's talk about ways that we can just break the chains of people pleasing. Because it can happen. You can break these chains. You can break this cycle. Number one, it requires a self-awareness. You have to be aware of your motivations. Like, why do you feel compelled to please others? Sit with yourself on this. Bring it to God. Why do you feel compelled to please others? And I want to say, because I don't want people to think that I'm like way too far, like rigid, where we're out here not trying to please people. Like, we are servants of God and we are here to serve other people. And being humble doesn't mean thinking badly about yourself, thinking that you are unworthy, that you're not valuable. And so when you're in these situations where you're feeling unappreciated, where you're feeling resentful, where you're feeling frustrated and angry and hurt, whatever, take note. Take note of what is triggering that feeling for you. Like, if you have to put it in the notes app of your phone, then do that and then reflect on it later. But like, it's really important to create some awareness around this. So after you've created awareness, set boundaries and communicate them. Define where you begin and end, what's acceptable and unacceptable, and what you'll tolerate and not tolerate. Practice saying no and always communicate directly and clearly with other people. It's not a guessing game for them. Let them know where you stand. You know, it's okay to prioritize self-care. It's okay to prioritize alone time. It's okay to prioritize your emotional needs, your mental health. It's okay. We all have it. We all have mental and emotional needs that we need to protect. Jesus did it. How many times do you read in the Bible that he went off alone to pray? He left the crowd to pray. He left his disciples to go pray. Like, he went to go spend time with God often. Like, he allowed himself time. One of the ways that you can build your self-esteem and your self-worth is to find your identity in God. I have a whole episode about it. But when we are constantly seeking external validation, we are going to keep seeking and yearning for that. We will never be fulfilled by our spouse's opinion, our children, our family, our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers. Like, it will never fulfill us. We're going to constantly be needing validation. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And that is why God's validation is enough. What God says about you, what he believes about you, what he thinks about you, how he feels about you is enough. When you wrap yourself up in the identity of being a child of God, there is nothing that can hinder your self-worth. No opinion of man can even come close to who you are in God. They can't touch it. They can't remove it. I'm not getting to heaven on man's opinion. Like, that's not how I'm getting to heaven. I'm getting to heaven because of Jesus and Jesus alone. And I want you to remember that. You can't cash in man's opinion on you to get into heaven. I hope that breaks something for you. Because if you are a child of God, that is all that matters. We are here to love people. We are here to point people to Jesus. We are here to be like Jesus. And Jesus was very direct. He didn't tiptoe around people. He wasn't scared. He didn't cower. Look at his interactions. Go back through the New Testament and read his interactions with the Pharisees, with other people. He spoke the truth directly, firmly, lovingly. He called people out on poor behavior, lovingly, gently. In this cycle breaking, practice assertiveness. Find a couple of people that you feel really safe with, that you know will accept you no matter what. And let them know that you are practicing overcoming people pleasing. And ask if you can practice with them. I guarantee if they are for you, if they really love you and care for you, they're going to say yes and they're going to want to help you. Practice with them. Be upfront with it. It's okay. Just say, hey, I am practicing this and I would like to say no in this situation. Whatever it is, don't overthink it. It's not that complicated. As always, seek support if you need it. Friends, family, a therapist. But seek support. You're not alone in this. It's scary. But you got this. And just know that discomfort isn't bad. Like, discomfort isn't a bad thing. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. There's growth in the uncomfortable. So when we're working through breaking these people-pleasing tendencies, you have to really embrace yourself. And how you do that is knowing who you are. And if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you stand for, make some time with yourself. Like, sit alone and figure out what you're for, what you stand for, and what you stand against. But you have to know who you are first. Because if you don't stand up for anything, you'll fall for everything. Know who you are. Figure out what your values are. There are tests that you can do online where you can find out what your values are. Practice being honest with yourself and with others. Again, bring people along this journey with you and let them know what you're doing. I am working through people-pleasing tendencies. Let them know. Be truthful about your feelings. Be truthful about your opinions. Be truthful about your desires. Be truthful about your boundaries. Invite people into your passions and your interests. And if your circle of people isn't interested in your passions, that's okay. Find a group where you guys are all passionate about the same thing. That's okay. When you are building authentic relationships, you want to find people, like I said before, who are for you, for your yes and your no. So find those people, create those connections, and ditch the toxic relationships. Distance yourselves from relationships that require you to compromise on your values, that require you to compromise on who you are and you pretending to be somebody you're not. That's not a genuine connection. Work through those fears that are causing you to people please. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of whatever. Work through those. Fear is a liar anyways. It's not real. There's faith or there's fear. You can't have both. So have faith that God will have you. Have faith that God will heal you. Have faith that God will stand for you. and that He will provide for you. Have faith in God. Accept that you are imperfect. This is something I'm still working on. I've come such a long way, but I still need to be okay with showing up messy, with not getting it right. I need to be okay that other people don't like me for who I am. I got one person that loves me unconditionally, and that is God. And that is the only way that I'm getting to heaven. So if I have that, I'm all set. I have all that I need. Everything else is extra. I'm thinking of that Reel audio from like several years ago where it says, your like is extra. Like I like me, but your like is extra. And that's so true with like God. I have God's like, and yours is just extra. So I'm all set. I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope that this helps you break free from those people-pleasing tendencies. And I hope that this will help you start on your healing journey and this journey of being bold and confident and being able to state your needs and your wants because it's available for you. You don't have to live your life hidden. Thank you for tuning into Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. Like this episode and share it with somebody that you think that it'll help. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for me. I am trying to reach more people to help them along their journeys as well. I will see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.